The Carothian predator cubs were supposed to be unstoppable. Bred from the most ferocious apex hunters in the Andromeda sector, these juvenile warriors had torn through every combat simulation the Galactic Coalition could devise. At merely 6 solar cycles old, they had defeated seasoned Vrelian shock troopers, outmaneuvered Zenthari assassins, and reduced a squad of cybernetically enhanced Krell to whimpering husks. Their claws could pierce reinforced titanium. Their reflexes operated at speeds that made most species' neurons look like they were moving through syrup. Commander Threx watched the monitoring screens with satisfaction, his 4 eyes gleaming in the dim light of the observation deck. The Coalition had invested decades into this program. And finally, they had their perfect soldiers. Then Dr. Ara Quinn arrived. The human xenobiologist stepped off the transport shuttle with nothing but a worn backpack and a datapad that looked older than most of the station's equipment. She was unremarkable by most standards. Average height for her species, brown hair pulled into a practical ponytail, eyes that held neither fear nor ambition. Just curiosity. Dr. Quinn, Commander Threx greeted her, his mandibles clicking in the Carothian gesture of formal welcome. Your reputation precedes you, though I must confess I'm uncertain why the Council approved a xenobiologist for this military installation. Ilara smiled, the corners of her eyes crinkling. Because someone needs to remember their children, Commander. Threx's scales bristled. They are weapons. They're 6 years old. The first meeting between Ilara and the cubs was scheduled for the following morning in Training Arena 7. Threx had arranged for full security. Protocols, energy barriers, armed guards, and emergency extraction procedures. The 3 cubs, designated as Alpha, Beta, and Gamma by military personnel, had already hospitalized 2 handlers that week. Ilara walked into the arena alone. The cubs circled her immediately, their predatory instincts honed by months of combat conditioning. Alpha, the largest, approached from the front, its obsidian claws extended. Beta and Gamma flanked her sides, their serpentine tails coiled to strike. Threx leaned forward in the observation booth, his claws gripping the console. This foolish human would be dead in seconds. Ilara sat down cross-legged on the floor. Hi there, she said softly. You 3 look exhausted. Alpha stopped mid-stride, confusion flickering across its reptilian features. In the cubs' entire existence, no one had ever acknowledged their fatigue. No one had ever sat down in their presence without maintaining a combat stance. I'm Ilara, she continued, pulling something from her backpack. I brought snacks. Not the nutrient paste they've been feeding you, actual food. Want to try? The cubs exchanged glances, their predatory formations dissolving. Beta's tail uncoiled slightly. Gamma tilted its head, nostrils flaring at the unfamiliar scent. For the next hour, Threx watched in stunned silence as the most dangerous predators in known space sat in a circle with a human, eating something she called cookies and listening to her gentle voice. Over the following weeks, the dynamic shifted in ways that defied every military protocol. Ilara didn't train the cubs, she taught them. She read them stories from Earth literature. She played games that had no combat applications. She gave them names, Ash, Ember, and Storm. Commander Threx protested repeatedly. Dr. Quinn, you're compromising the entire program. These creatures need discipline, structure, combat readiness. They need childhood, Ilara replied calmly. They need to understand that strength isn't just about domination. It's about choice. The breaking point came during a scheduled demonstration for Coalition admirals. The cubs were meant to showcase their abilities against a simulated enemy battalion. Instead, when the simulation began, all 3 cubs sat down in the center of the arena. Why aren't they engaging? Admiral Krell demanded, her translator device crackling with barely contained fury. Threx rushed to the arena control room, but Ilara was already inside, speaking to the cubs through the comm system. It's okay, she said. You don't have to fight if you don't want to. Alpha Ash looked up at the observation windows where rows of military officials glared down. The cub's voice, still developing but clear, echoed through the arena. We choose not to. The room erupted. Admirals shouted. Security teams mobilized, but Threx found himself frozen, watching something unprecedented unfold. The cubs weren't cowering. They weren't defiant. They were simply deciding. Later, in the privacy of Threx's office, the commander confronted Ilara. You've ruined them. Years of training, billions in resources wasted. Ilara met his gaze steadily. I haven't ruined them, Commander. I've given them what makes humans dangerous. And what is that? Free will. She stood, gathering her belongings. You wanted unstoppable weapons. But weapons break, malfunction, get turned against their creators. I've given you something far more valuable. Individuals who choose to protect rather than destroy. Who fight because they believe in something, not because they're programmed to. Threx's mandibles clicked uncertainly. The Coalition will terminate the program, possibly terminate the Cubs. Then humanity will offer them sanctuary. Ilara's voice carried an edge of steel that made even the seasoned warrior pause. We have experience with refugees, and we never abandon children. 3 months later, the Corothian Cubs, Ash, Ember, and Storm, became the first non-human citizens of the Human Concordat's Juvenile Integration Program. They would never serve as the Coalition's perfect weapons. Instead, they became something the galaxy had never seen. Corothian predators who chose diplomacy over destruction, who used their formidable abilities to protect rather than conquer, who remembered that someone once sat with them on a cold arena floor and offered them cookies and kindness. Commander Threx watched their departure from the station's viewport. Against every instinct, every training protocol, he found himself hoping they would thrive. Perhaps, he thought, that was the real lesson about humans. They didn't dominate through superior strength or technology. They dominated through an absurd, illogical, completely unquantifiable weapon. They treated everyone like they mattered, even predator cubs bred for war.